I'm Dwayne Brummett. He's Ali Alberigo, and this is the School Owner Talk podcast. Hello again, Dwayne Brummett here with Ali Alberigo. Again, SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Ali, great to be with you, sir.
Yes, great to be with you as well. I look tan. I think I got to change my lighting. I look too tan.
So as we're broadcasting, because we've got a topic that we're going to talk about today, but I want to give an update because I know in previous podcasts we've talked about this. Is we did last year, and it wasn't my idea. It was my head instructor, Mr. Bean's idea to do a buddy week, but we came up with a whole glorified thing, making it National Martial Arts Appreciation Day, month. And so last year we had a total of 66 buddies come in. I forget now the percentage of people that did trials and yada, yada, yada. And then we kept 4 of them all the way throughout the year until this time, from this time last year to this year, 4 of them are still with us. That being said, we really wanted to make it a huge deal this year. And you and I were talking back and forth on some ideas and, you did a beautiful, wonderful, and appreciated you doing this, a virtual seminar. So we had my people sign up. We only allowed 30 to come. And then, you were pumped in to, our class on a Saturday morning. Yeah. Through Zoom.
It was awesome. So much fun.
Yeah, you got to tell your story. And so like every single week we've been talking about different martial arts, and martial artists and why we appreciate them, from, of course, Bruce Lee to Chuck Norris. I can't tell you how many people don't even know who Chuck Norris is.
They don't know any of the martial artists that we remember.
No.
So some of the parents don't either, like young parents, because they weren't brought up in the era where martial art movies were like a staple in everyday life.
Crazy. So, and then all of us as instructors, we actually shot videos on why we were appreciative of martial arts and those type of things. All that being said, my goal this year was to have, instead of 66 buddies come in, have 100. And, that's why we did the t-shirts. We did 200 t-shirts so that if you brought a buddy, then you get a t-shirt, your buddy gets a t-shirt.
That's great.
Dude, at our main location, we already are at 133 people that are registered to come in this week. Now, I know some people aren't going to make it. I get that. But even if it's only 5% that don't make it, and then at our second location, we have right now 11 people. So you're looking at, what is that? Almost 150. So 140, my math isn't that good. 145 people.
Right.
Something
That's
like
crazy. That. And I did really well too, but nowhere near like what you did. I think we have this week as well where the people are bringing people in, but I think I got maybe about 20 or so the first week, and I'm hoping to get another 20 or 30 this week. Same thing, giving out a t-shirt and so on. So I think that's pretty awesome. And I have a lot of interest though. The interesting thing is a lot of these people, by the way, which have probably still been sitting out there waiting to come into our school. We just didn't have the right venue to motivate them and get the buddy weeks to get them going. So we really built the hype around the National Martial Art Appreciation Month. And then that got the people to really want to bring in their buddies. So, I mean, I'd be happy if I signed 10 or 15 of those people up. And to me, the numbers are, basically, everyone wants the most, of course, but I look at it and I go, hey, 30, 40 leads come in the door. If I sign up 10 or 12, I'd be happy, even if I'm doing a small 25% of whatever leads I'm getting.
Right. Yeah. And that's why, like for us, we just do 1 week. So it's the last week of the month for us. So we're pumping it up to the last week. We strategically do that anyways, just because in our curriculum cycle, the last week of every September is always a sparring week. So I can afford in a curriculum lesson to not do sparring that week and, do a buddy week, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally does.
But I want to give everybody an update because I'm excited.
Yeah, I know, me too. And by the way, I have to say thank you, because when we started chatting about this, it was I'm like, wow, I'm the one thing I can say about the way I think is like, I'm always thinking of, for example, I was in Nashville on vacation, right? And I'm looking at the vast amount of people that are there. Just like if I could envision in a cartoon, there would be money floating through the sky, like everywhere. You could just reach up because people spending, like, I mean, we go out to dinner. It's two of us, $200, nightclubs, it was just amazing the amount of wealth and money being spent. Then you say to yourself, like, how is anyone, in our area, my area, struggling?
I was going to say, and that's cheap because you're not a drinker. You add
Right.
in, you add in 2 or 3 drinks at your table because usually, one person's going to do 2 or 3.
Yeah, my
drinks.
wife makes up for both of us. No, I'm just kidding. No, she has a drink or two, but sometimes to make her feel good, I'll have a mocktail, like a fake cocktail, right? So, and they're still charging me the same price, $12 for a little tiny glass of, a mojito, which is like lime juice and soda. But it's incredible. Like, I look at it and go like, wow, and by the way, I have this in my school. Like, people will say, well, what's the price before I come in? I don't want to make my kids fall in love before I sign up and, and come in there. And I'm like, just come in and see what we're all about, because there's so much that we have to offer, right? But then they're already penny pinching. But yet then I go out and I see people dropping, like, for instance, we're listening to a band, and at the end of the night, their last song, they say, we'll play any song anyone wants, but you have to bid for it. And you don't get your money back. If you bid $100, then, the highest bid will play whatever song you want. And someone dropped $1,000 in cash into their tip bucket. And I'm like, like the money that's just flying around. So like, for all of us school owners, we're super conscientious about what we charge, not to overdo it, nickel and dime people and so on. But really the money is out there, right? So be careful that you just don't paint your own picture and paint it into a bad position.
Yeah, definitely. Because a lot of it is in your head. And I remember Dan Kennedy talking about the fact that, somebody said, well, you got a lot of balls asking for, this price or whatever. And,
right.
And he's like, no, I just, that's, if you don't want it, you're not going to pay for it. Like, and I remember him because through Stephen Oliver, I got to meet Dan Kennedy. And I remember, him just saying that, you want to up your prices and you're worried about, talking to somebody and like one of the parents, all you do is just practice it in the mirror. Yes, man. Yeah. Yes, Mrs. Jones. It's $169 a month.
And I have to tell you, like, it's sometimes, and, I like to admit things to people. Like, I'm not the type of guy that tries to hide behind some fake persona. So, like, if I've failed, I'll clearly let everyone know where I failed. Like, that's why a lot of our listeners, they're like, oh, thanks for sharing honestly for you and I, right? That topic's never been talked about. Everyone paints this Instagram picture where everyone's rich with Ferraris. Meanwhile, you have like a broken down Kia and you're living in it, right? But so what I like to do is share that knowledge. But I kind of feel like I've been kind of gotten beaten down into submission a little when it comes to wanting to sell. So I'm trying this very soft sales approach, almost like I don't want to look like I'm trying to lock them in. And I just started to shift back to the old alley and go like, listen, what are we doing here? Why are you not signing up? Why don't we get this going? Like, I had a mom went from a basic program and just a few conversations to our highest elite, which is our team leadership, character development, and our Black Belt Club all into one. And she's a 12-year-old girl who's been training, loves the school. The mom loves our dojo. Why don't I ask her? Mm-hmm. So I did. And you know what her answer was? Okay. Yeah, like that. Course. I'm going like, why didn't I do that before? That was the old me, where I'd be a little bit more upfront and outspoken about the benefits and why they're doing things. We have 2 good comments of one of our guests that we've had in the past. And also he also is a contributor always on the comments section. Sensei Anthony Arango from the Martial Art Institute, who, by the way, has run his school for 45 years. He wrote, our job is to educate our students on the history of the martial arts every day, giving you and the instructors an opportunity to speak at the end of class, where parents can listen in the children's class and adults enjoy the history and the culture. That's what you were talking about before, like those mat chats, right? And then he also wrote, the Art of Survival magazine gives us a perfect opportunity. We've used your article, my article, to promote the tournaments, because they did an article on me, and they're doing it on many local martial artists. And Sensei Arango is the Long Island representative for that magazine. So he's getting a lot of the locals into the magazine because they deserve it, right? And they just get ignored because they haven't been on the silver screen. So anyway, what I want to tell everyone the actual topic and
we digressed for a little bit, but the actual topic today is look, you can't automate anything or everything. You can't automate everything in your school. I mean, really running a martial arts school still is a personality driven business.
Yeah.
And so I know that there's a lot of people, a lot of companies, also a lot of coaches that are really making things, talking about the fact that you should automate as much as you can. And do I disagree with that? No, I don't disagree with that. But I also think that you've got to be careful that you don't fall into the trap of automating everything because I know that your numbers will suffer if you automate everything. So just with regards to that topic, before we dive into other things, what's your initial thought when you hear that topic?
You and I are definitely masters of automation. However, we also know when there has to be human interaction. So, for example, we know of people that open up a school and they're brand new, right? The school is new, they're just starting, and they try to run their school like a big school, and they automate everything, and they really shoot themselves in the foot because they take out the human interaction part. Like, I have to tell you, there had to be 100 items that I wanted or tried to buy on the internet, and for some reason something wasn't working, and I couldn't even call tech support or try to learn something from, let's say I do Google advertising and for a lot of clients, and I advertise their schools, but let's say Google changes something and now I can't figure it out. It's not working. It takes me weeks, if not a month, just to get to somebody live. And it's the biggest and most frustrating thing ever. And this morning, by the way, I sent you my questionnaire. I emailed it to you, Dwayne, and I said, maybe if you could take a look at it. I had like 30 questions and about 30 people filled out the questionnaire. But I wanted to get your opinion on some of it. Like, I'm looking at it and trying to get a consensus and understanding like what I could do for whatever the question was. Like, have you ever attended one of our special parents' night outs, like Nerf Wars or Halloween party? A lot of no's, a lot of yeses, and the reasons why they didn't go. So I'd like to see your thoughts on what you think maybe what I'm missing in the questionnaire. But it goes back to like communication, right? And education. Every one of these questions boils down to communication. That would have fixed it somehow, or they didn't read. We tried to communicate, but it was on whatever platform and they ignored it. They don't have the time. There's more no time. I don't have time. I didn't have the time. We had other things scheduled on this questionnaire than I could have ever imagined. And you know what's interesting too? One dynamic, the biggest thing that shocked me was that 50% or 60% of the people that filled out this questionnaire say that they do not use social media at all. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, they don't engage at it at all.
I wonder, though, how true that statement is, to be honest with you, because there's people that have, I would venture to say that some of those people that said that they don't interact actually saw your ad on Facebook, clicked on it, and signed up.
Could be.
Facebook.
That's an interesting comment.
Now, what they're saying may be true in their own mind, meaning that they're not posting on there. They're really not engaging on there with regards to those type of things.
Right.
So I don't know if the question would be clear enough to get the result that you are looking for. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally makes sense. Yeah. So that's why, of course, it's overall, right? I'm trying to get a bunch of people's opinions and try to glean out some errors. Like one of my other questions was, do I say yes? You lost me?
Yeah. Can you say that again?
I said, are you making a joke?
No,
I said, one of the questions was, do I communicate too much? And their answers were, some of them, slightly, yes, but the ones that said yes that I communicate too much are the ones that read the material. So if I sent it out 5 times, they've read it 5 times. The other people are like, no, I need the reminder. I need to be constantly reminded. Please tell me. We love the communication. And I thought that was a point of frustration for some.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can see that being, yeah, I already read this. Come on, or I already bought it, or I already did that, but yeah. So, look, do I think that we can automate a lot in our business? I do. But I also think that we can get into a trap of allowing the computers to do some of the work that really we should be doing. And so let's just take your initial funnel that, you have on your Google AdWords or your Facebook advertising, or even just your regular website. Really, as soon as they opt in, and if they don't take the next step, like let's just say it's a 2-step process, they opt in and then they schedule. Or maybe it's a 3-step process. They opt in, give you more information, and then schedule. Whatever it is, really, within the first 5-10 minutes, in a perfect world, you should be on that phone.
Yeah.
Calling them. So if you see that they didn't take step 2, they took step 1, but they didn't take step 2 out of a 2-step process, you should be on that phone. But what do we do? We go, well, they're getting emails, they're getting text messages that they didn't complete their registration or whatever it is. I was so impressed. I don't remember. Oh, it was my pool store. I called on a Saturday morning about a cover. I was going to close my pool this year. Or when I was going to close my pool this year. So I called and it went to voicemail. Well, I didn't leave a voicemail. I was like, you know what? I'll just call back. And I kid you not, probably 5 to 7 minutes later, they called me and said, hey, this is Blanchette Pools. We noticed that you gave us a call and didn't leave us a message. We wanted to see what you needed.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
Right.
Now, I can assure you they don't have automations anyway. I mean, obviously, if you leave a voicemail, that's automated to a certain degree. You still have to follow up with them physically. But I didn't even leave a voicemail, and they called me back. How impressive is that?
Yeah. Well, hey, have you ever inquired about health insurance and you go to a website and you put in your name and email and literally you hit send and the phone is ringing and they're like, hi, we're calling about I literally just sent it over, and within seconds they're calling me. And then it's a nonstop barrage of phone calls from different companies. But then there's so many other sides of the coin. Like I have a guy just repaired my roof. I paid $2,800 about 2 months ago. And he promised me he'd guarantee it if there's any leaks, and I have leaks. I've been texting him and emailing him, not one response. So either he's going to rip me off and not come back, or he's just so unprofessional. And there's so many companies that are unprofessional. Like Google's like that, dude. Like when I call up tech support, they won't answer for days. Like and then finally someone will call you back. Meanwhile, I need to fix the problem immediately. Right. So I got to go on and figure it out.
Yeah. It's an emergency on your part, but not on theirs. Yeah.
Right. Which is a shame. Right. Because it is an emergency if it's my emergency. Right. Because I need it for my clients. So it's amazing.
So, look, when you, and I don't know about you, but you probably have, you talked to school owners. Well, I tried calling and I left a message and I didn't get anything.
Right.
Okay. So call the next day.
Yeah.
And call the next day. Like I've had program directors and I've had instructors ask, well, how many times do you want me to call? I go, I want you to call until they say they don't want you to call anymore.
Yeah. I've had situations where, I've had people join my school and they say, hey, you've been calling me for a year. I once had a mom who literally recited my message. Hi, this is Shion Ali from Long Island Ninjutsu Centers. And because she would listen to it, hit delete, knowing that I'm going to call back. So when she was ready, she finally came in and signed her kid up. So I remember like persistence is everything. And I tell my virtual assistant that too. Do not give up. No answer, call again. Just keep leaving messages. Change it up every little once in a while. You'll get in touch with them eventually. And if you don't, what does it take you? 2 seconds, 3 seconds to call and leave a message?
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at more like, 20 to 30 seconds.
Yeah.
When you, because I use the automation in our Spark,
Hmm.
Spark membership software, where I have a task, and once I do that task, I leave a comment on based upon what I did during that task. So if I left
Yeah.
a message, I put LM. If I sent an SMS, I put SMS on there, and then I actually attach the SMS, a copy of that SMS inside of that thread, so I can see what's been happening. That
Right.
way, anybody can, go in that thread of that task and go, oh, okay, yeah, somebody, Dwayne called, Bean texted, Kent
Right.
sent an email. Like, I mean, it's just all there. And so, yeah, it's going to take you, 30 seconds to like review a couple of things and go, okay, yep, yep, yep. All right, I see. Unless you're the one that's always doing that person, then,
Yeah.
you actually remember what's going on. But it's so important to have that human touch. So that's just a lead or a prospect. But think about the school owner or the schools that when somebody comes in, yes, they're greeting them. Maybe they're not. They're checking them into the software or whatever and getting them into class. But what if, if we automated the class, right? We put them out on the classroom and we just had a video screen and we had a tape playing. I mean, would you do that? Would you do a tape player in that? I wouldn't. I mean, how many people would we sign up if we automated the classroom? Think about that. And I think I lost you, Allie. Yeah, you're gone. Hopefully you pop back in. Let's try that again, my friend. Well, let me see if we're still on the air here. This ought to be interesting. Give us just a second, if you would. Heck, I thought maybe it was my internet or something that did this. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like I'm still on. All right. So, anyways, with regards, and if you're listening and you can pop in, let me know. Hey, Allie, it looks like you're coming back. Let me get you in here.
Yeah. That was really weird. That was really weird because you froze, then it said lost connection, and then Facebook froze. So we're back
Maybe it
on
was a
now.
Facebook thing. Yeah, it could have been a Facebook thing. So,
Yeah. But
but
I heard I still heard what you were saying during it. And so here's the thing, if I could comment on that human contact, like for instance, this questionnaire, it took me time. Then it took me time because the one thing that Spark doesn't have is that you can't take the questionnaire, the question, and then put all the answers from all the surveys so that you have a consensus of what each answer and a bulk of people and their questions. But I learned a lot from people by just doing this questionnaire. Like 30 of my clients responded, and I have a deeper understanding of what they want, what they like, how they think. And that's the personal contact. Like you could automate all you want. I could communicate and send out messages, and you could do, we do automations on different promotional items and sales and events. But we need to really talk to the people, right? We got to.
yeah, well, okay. So let's say there's 20 steps to go from white belt to yellow belt. I could record 20 different videos of each of those steps, building blocks from, your attention stance all the way to your front kick to, how, you know what I'm saying?
You cut out again, Dwayne.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe it's the weather somewhere.
Yeah.
But I could record everything. Like I could record those classes and then what? Play them on the television,
Mm-hmm.
And how many individuals are going to stick around for something like that?
Well, isn't that always the case? Like in this questionnaire, a lot of people would be, I'd like to learn more about how to tie my belt. That was one of them. And we have a video right on our app, and it's like, how to tie your belt. I also have a really cool video that I have on how to restring your gi pants. And I learned from this judo guy, different way to do it. That way you just tie it in a loop and you pull it through and boom, you untie the loop and tie it. Like it's so easy other than putting a pencil and taping it and pulling the string or a coat hanger. This guy says, no, you just do this and boom, done. So I posted that video, but a lot of people, it would be really nice if you posted a video or we learned how to do that. And I'm going like, just, man, how can I communicate? Like, it's almost like, I don't know, you're talking, and people are yesing you and nodding and they don't hear a word you say. It's like the Charlie Brown video. Remember, every parent was wah, 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 wah. Like, and that's what we go through. So we have to break down and communicate in a way. And I think repetition is very important, and continuous communicating the same message. But I think we feel as school owners, man, we shouldn't do that. People will be pissed.
Yeah. But you got to, repetition is really the mother of learning.
Yeah.
So
but you know what? According to my questionnaire, they're not annoyed. They like it.
Well, let me tell you this. I was speaking to a couple of educators, and they were talking about within the next 5 to 6 years, there is going to be such a deficit of people in education that, like, one of the proposed ideas, if you will, to solve this problem is, let's just say it's a high school. So you don't have enough high school teachers.
Right.
But all you need to have is one English teacher, one math teacher, one science teacher, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then you zoom them into the classroom, and then you just have a bunch of paraprofessionals that are in that classroom to answer the questions live to the student.
I mean, it makes sense. I just don't know how great it would work, but that's a whole nother conversation, but that's how they'll be able to do it.
But that's automating. That's a form of automation is kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's true.
Pumping that in. And I don't believe it's going to produce a great product, nor is there going to be, and this is the most important thing, I think, in our studios or in any business, but especially our type of business, is you cannot create a true sense of connection through a television, through a smartphone, through an automation. There has to be, or a video. Like, you have to have that physical one-on-many, one-on-one opportunities in order to create those.
Sensei Arango, I agree 100%. And Sensei Arango also wrote, you have to be in the lobby shaking hands and be genuinely sincere and with the parents, bringing their children and older students coming to your school. He always ends his class with saying, I appreciate you spending time with us. So he's out there. He said he's like the maitre d' of the school. And I agree. I love sitting at my desk in the lobby where the parents are and talking and, mixing and communicating. But you're right. Like, I think you said, I forget who we were talking about, but we know of people that they're new school owners, right? Brand new. They have very small amount of students, yet they want to run like they were a 400 student operation. They want to automate everything. They want to take out the personal interaction and so on. And I think that's a huge mistake because, you could lose out that way.
And part of that problem is, especially if they're a young person, is they're so used to everything being on this. So how many times do you have to go to a website and you got to text somebody for support? Like, you can't call them. It's all tech support. It's all, when I say tech support, I'm saying TEXT, text support, not tech support.
No, but you're right though. And then, by the way, too, then they'll refer you. You ask a question on a chat bot, and the chat bot sends you a link to a whole forum of people trying to figure out the problem. So one question that could be answered in a second is now taking you hours of research to try to find the answer, then to figure out the answer. And it's the most frustrating thing about our society today is that lack of human interaction.
Yeah. And so then when you, as a school owner, try to model that with new customers, trial customers, and then actually new customers that sign up with you, it's a recipe for disaster. If you're not going to interact with your students and your potential students, with the parents and everybody else, that part, the relationship, that's what I'm trying to think of.
Right.
The relationship cannot be automated. You cannot automate a relationship.
Right. And you can get very close to distributing and educating through automations and videos. Like you're outstanding in your video presentations where you're walking through the school and you're reading the information and explaining it to your people. And those type of videos are great. It's just interesting though to see how many people will like, even though they're hearing and watching, how little amount of the information is going through, even on text. Like I had a guy yesterday and he's like, I'd like classes for my kid. And I said, I text him back and I said, he goes, well, you know, I said, how old is he? And he said 3. I said, well, these are the days, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday from 4 to 4:30, Friday from 4:30 to 5. He says, okay, I'm going to come in on Saturday and do the class. So I'm like, okay, no, we only have classes and, you know, blah, blah, blah. It went over again. And he said, okay, I'll come on Thursday at 5:45 because that's when I could get in. I'm like, I said to him in a joke, LOL, are you messing with me or are you just really not reading what I'm saying? And then this is the 4th message now. He comes back, asks the same redundant question about coming in at a different time. And then I said, again, you're messing with me. I get it now. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. I need to learn how to read better. Finally, after 5 communications. So imagine the school owners out there and, you know, we send out a distinct, clear, succinct message and people read it in their own thoughts. Like I have a mom out of all of these, one of her, she had responded. She's one of my favorite moms too, but she responded with this big long thing about, you know, your questions are only one out of all 30 that responded or 32. You're very, very direct. Sometimes it sounds too direct and too, you know, like you're mad. And I'm like, it's simple questions. Like, have you ever been to a parents' night out? Yes or no? Like, so, but she read it in a way where it sounds like I'm too direct. So she gave me all these suggestions at how I should have rewritten the question and so on, which I appreciate. But at the same time, it's funny what she saw and 30 other people didn't see that.
Sure. Or maybe one other person did, but they didn't have the guts to tell you that.
Right. Yeah. But you'll see when you read the questionnaire, you'll see it on there.
Yeah, no, I mean, you are direct though. I mean, but that question isn't direct. That's
right.
Just a question. And all you're doing is stating, you know, the answer I would like to receive from you is either yes or either no.
Yeah.
I mean, that, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. But let me add another guy commented, Darren Hunter. And by the way, Darren is from the UK. Right, Darren, what part are you from? I forget because we met in Sean, we met at the Nest meeting and did some coaching there or whatever chats. But Darren wrote, there's another problem that the younger generations are now brought up with automations, text, WhatsApp, social media, message threads. Secret is to automate, but have nothing of value, always to be face-to-face, progress reports, any issues to be parents. Yeah, I agree. Like parents conferences and so on, they're very important.
Yep. And you can't automate that.
No,
you can't automate that.
No.
So the human connection, the relationship should not be automated in totality. Can you okay, again, we're going to go back to Spark. I'm not dogging Spark out. I actually love Spark, but Spark actually makes it so easy that if I wanted to automate everything and not have any human connection until I actually had to, I could. So from emails and text messages, when they first opt in to even, you know, if you set it up, you can do the birthday messages that get texted right on their birthday. Yeah. Looks like it came from you, but it was an automation. You know, now that being said, you got to respond to that person.
Right.
So when they say thank you, you text them back and say, absolutely. I hope you have a fabulous day or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, that's sometimes with the automations, when we send out a bulk automation, like not an automation, a text, people think that it's a bulk text. Like I found this out recently. So they won't respond because, you know, on a group message, you respond and everybody gets your response. So I have to explain to people continuously, like even if I send out a group text and you respond, it's individually between the two of us. So if you responded to my text and said, yeah, my kid's a brat, smack them around. Not every parent is going to see that, just me, you know, that kind of thing, you know. So that's another misconception with automation as well, that it's just there. People look at it and go like, oh, I didn't realize that was like when I asked for my questionnaire, I asked one person personally that didn't respond and they said, oh, I didn't realize that was mandatory. I said, it's not mandatory, but I just want to know what you think. And then they filled it out for me. Right. So it's something that we have to look towards. So let me ask you a question. Like in your school, do you do an orientation initially when people sign up? And then do you do other parent teacher meetings, or we used to call it a PSSR, parent student sensei review, and go over things?
Yeah. So obviously when you come in to do your trial,
Right.
we're having a meeting, right? That very first time, get them ready for class. The trial is a free 4 weeks.
Right.
After the second class, Bean's on the phone calling them that next day. So let's say they come in, they start in on a Monday. They'll do that Monday and Wednesday class. By Thursday, Bean's on the phone calling them, talking about their progress that week, individualizing it based upon that person.
Yeah.
And then that following Monday, they come in, do class. And then that following Wednesday is when we have an enrollment conference. So we're sitting down, asking them what they like best about the program so far. What is it that, you're looking out of a martial arts program for Johnny? And then we try to enroll them right then. Of course, they still have 2 other weeks if they don't want to. We give them special invitation at that time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they can do it later on. But all that being said, those are the first, touches that we do. Now, going back to automation, I do have onboarding videos that they are getting. There's actually 6 videos that they get within that first, actually probably within that first 8 to 9 days.
How long are your videos?
I think the first one is like 1.5 minutes.
Okay.
The second one is maybe 2 minutes and 23 seconds or something like that.
So
but
little,
I actually
little chunks of information.
Yeah, the only one that's really long is the very last one, and it's probably it's probably like a little over 8-minute video.
Okay.
But that one is the price of the program and everything that they receive. So that one is going to be a little bit longer.
Yeah, and you know what? Like we're trying, and I'm frustrated sometimes because I'm like, compared to I was 25 years ago, like my communication is like light years ahead of what it used to be, my onboarding process. And yet, no matter what we do, there are always those people who, one, misinterpret the words that we're saying or don't quite get or understand what we're saying. So like I had to, before I sign someone up, we do yearly agreements. I would say, listen, I just want you to know this is a commitment. There's only 3 ways to cancel. Someone gets sick, someone moves out of the area. And of course, if there's an injury or if you run out of money and you have a financial issue, just come to talk to me. And I usually just, give them a month or 2 for free. But anyway, I had to, when people want to cancel 6 months later, they forget everything you said and what they signed for. So I put in the first thing in my digital contract, the first paragraph in red, bold letters with little stars on it. Make note, this is a yearly commitment. You cannot cancel if Johnny's bored or you just don't want to bring him anymore, and you're liable for the full 12 months. Like that's the first line. So they have to go below that to sign it. But the first one is in bold, 22-point font, font size versus the rest, which is 14. And people still say, I don't remember this was a yearly agreement. And I literally send them that. But their comment is, I don't read this stuff. When I sign, I'm like, okay, I don't know what else to do.
But see, that's not your fault. That's not your problem even.
Right. But it is our problem though, when we're trying to communicate the way people get promoted or being more dedicated or upgrading to a better program or buying gear or coming to a seminar. Like that's a big one you'll find on my questionnaire, Dwayne, where people, I'm saying, we went to a thing called Masters Unite, where my buddy puts this on every year. I've been teaching. This will be my 10th year coming up when I teach it. And people just didn't hear it. Like, come to this seminar, train with these masters, have a fun time. The food is free. The knowledge is unbelievable. They're like, oh, I never heard about that. I was handing flyers out, like literal paper flyers to people. I had it on my board. I did automations. I sent out texts, emails. People almost like block it out. Like, again, like the Charlie Brown was their parents were talking and they didn't hear a word I said.
I don't. Yeah. Well, what is it, like 9 times You got to hear something nine. I think
Yeah.
it's nine or more times now
Yeah.
in order to take action.
Well, they used to say that direct mail was like 4 to 6 times to direct mail. This is 20 years ago. Now they say the direct mail piece doesn't even get recognized until after the 20th piece. So they might get it in the mail, look at it, toss it in the garbage, see an email, delete it, right? It takes 20 some odd times for you. What is your saying? The easy part of the journey is just to penetrate the skull.
No.
Half inch.
Yeah. Well, Zig Ziglar. That was Zig Ziglar used to say that, you know, a message can travel around the world in a matter of seconds, but sometimes it takes years before it penetrates that last 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah, and I have a client, my friend. We just had breakfast this morning, and he said to me, he goes, he just finally hired a program manager. He had a hard time. One hired, they quit. Another, like, very short run. So he finally hired someone. He goes, it's amazing that when we follow up on the phone calls, we're like getting so many trial classes in. I'm going, like, I've been telling you this for months. Like, well, he wasn't doing the calls himself. He was just saying, hey, I don't have the time. He was busy running the school and paying the bills.
And that's the thing. You do not have the time. It is a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, as a school owner, would actually track the amount of money that you're spending to get that name into your hat, you would go, oh my gosh, I'm leaving a $200 name, or I'm leaving $100 name, or I'm leaving $1,000 name on the table.
Yeah. I once read a book with a Buddhist monk, and he says, you have to think of priorities like diarrhea. And I'm like, okay, he goes, because when diarrhea hits, there's no holding it off. Like, you got to go, right? Like, you know, he said, that's how you have to have priorities. They're immediate. They're not when I get around to it. They're not like when I feel like it, right? And if you don't have that priority, especially with trial class calls or setting up appointments, and for missed people who don't show up, following up, those things are super, super important.
Well, but okay, so most people don't like to get on the phone and do a sales call. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem, number one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you read the book, or if you need to read the book by what's his name? Brian Tracy. Eat the Frog.
I read that after you recommended it to me. It was good. Short book too, by the way, for those that are nervous of books. It wasn't a big, thick book that took forever to read.
You wake up in the morning and do the thing that you hate to do the most. The biggest thing, you do that first.
Okay.
So if it is making sales calls, then you get on that phone and you freaking make sales calls.
Right.
And if you don't know how to do it, just get on and try it. Because eventually you're going to find out what works and what doesn't work. Because if you keep getting hung up on, then you know what you're saying isn't working.
Yeah, Grant Cardone said that in his sales university that I took on, and I still have like a month left of it. And he said that, you know, keep on trying to sell until you get really good at selling. Don't give up on selling because you're not good at it, right? Like, you need to, just like anything else, you try a spinning hook kick and you do it bad the first, 100 times. And finally you get the coordination and the flexibility and the kick down. Like, I just did a kicking class the other day with my black belt club students, which my black belt club is not a black belt level. They're just any group body. I would change the name if I could go back in time. And maybe it's worth rebranding at a later date. But anyway, the people that were doing basic kicks, I'm like, you're doing the chamber wrong. You're delivering the roundhouse incorrectly. And we went over all the little intricacies and basic movements to make them better kickers.
Well, look, anything Zig Ziglar's saying, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you can do it better.
Right. Darren Hunter wrote, do the important, automate the less important. All sales need to be done on the phone. The enrollment is done on the phone, not in person. The person is how you show and demonstrate what discussed on the phone. I think I understand that more, like we have to be more personally engaged versus doing everything on the phone too.
Yeah. I mean, have I signed up people on the phone? Sure. I'll give you for instance. So I had a task this morning. I'm running our second location right now, because our head instructor for that location is actually in Ireland.
Wow.
So there was a task to call a family because their kid had taken a break and they were supposed to come back in October. Well, I got on the phone and called, And she said, yep, we're ready. And I
Right.
said, okay, what card number do you want to use? Or is there a different card? Oh, we want to use a different card. Here it is. Great. When do you want the payments? Doesn't matter. Just set it up. Okay, well, I'm going to do your weekly payments every Monday. Okay, perfect. Great. See you next Tuesday. Awesome. Remember, it starts at 6 o'clock or 6:30. So if you can be there 10 minutes early. Yep. Nope. I remember. All right. Thanks. And then I put them in the calendar. So they'll get an automated text just to remind them of their coming back first class, that
Right.
type of thing.
Right.
That can be automated. But hey, it was easy. Now they could have said, no, we don't want to do it anymore. And then I would have done the process of all of that. So for instance, there was a lady who, I know you've gotten these because you've talked about this.
Yeah.
But I called her up on Monday, no answer, left a message, called again today. It's Wednesday. I usually wait 2 days. Called again on Wednesday. She picked up. And I said, is this, hi, this is, Mr. Brummett from TriStar Martial Arts Academy. Is this Tiffany? And she's like, yeah. And she's kind of like, what? And I said, well, I'm calling because 5 days ago you registered for our 2-week free trial for Keith. And we just needed to make a class time for you to take advantage of that trial. And she goes, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I said, well, you have a son named Keith, right? And she said, yeah. I said, you live at, and I gave her the address.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, well, I don't know who put your information in. I said, is this your email address? She said, yeah, that's my email address. Well, the whole time I know she's lying to me.
Yeah. Or what I get too is the husband or the wife fills the form out for their spouse thinking, hey, I'll have my husband deal with this. And they never tell the husband. They forget.
Are you serious?
We get that all the time as well, where
no.
they go, no, we never did it. And I go, well, could it be possible that your husband or your wife did it? Yeah, let me ask her. Hey, honey, is someone on the phone for blah, blah, blah? And they're like, you know what? Yeah, I forgot to tell you. I filled out a form to get a free month of. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we'll do it. Like, they are almost oblivious. I had my share of funny stories where I think people were up late at night, drunk, and they watched a Steven Seagal or Chuck Norris movie. They found the website, filled out the form, and in the morning they wake up and don't remember doing any of it too. I've had those. So
yeah.
And by the way, don't forget, you got to get off at 12:20 today, a little early. So we have a few more minutes.
Yep. But the text, I told her, have you been getting our text messages?
Yeah.
She goes, yeah, but I didn't know anything about it. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. Now, bringing it up to you, I should have been smart enough to say, well, is it possible that your significant other could have put, like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't even think of that. And I figured that she would have said that if that would have been the case.
Yeah, and it just goes to show how desensitized we are when we get automations, because I get them all the time in a text form. And I hate it because I haven't in the last 9 years ever requested a loan. Yet I get finance companies calling and texting me all the time. I have no idea how they got me on the list. And so my easiest way now to get rid of them is say like, oh no, I'm a cop in the city. I don't have my own business. Oh, okay, I'll take you off the list because it's business based, right? But normally they're like calling and texting, and I don't know how. So a lot of people, by the way, get that stuff and they see our automation and they just delete it, swipe and delete, right? And you're done.
Yeah. Well, look, over the past week and a half that I've been, following our system, calling people, texting them, emailing them, I've gotten a few trials that I don't think just through the automations themselves it would have happened. So, for instance, I was going to say real quickly, I called a guy yesterday. He said, "Look, I'm at work. Can you call me around 3:15?" I said, "Absolutely." I called him at 3:15. He still didn't answer, so I texted him and said, "Hey, I hope everything's okay. I know you said that I could call you at 3:15. If it's easier, here's the link to set up the class." And then I put the task for me to look at it again today. Yeah. So I went and looked at it again today. He had already set up the class through the link, but it was the phone call that prompted all of it.
Right. Yeah. And it's very frustrating. And I know you have to go. So real quickly, I was going to say, it's very frustrating when we as owners do tasks and they work that our staff maybe has gotten discouraged on or given up on or doesn't do. And when I coach people, there's a lot of times they don't do it either. And the results is in the effort going forward. And we just had the last two comments, or one comment was, if your phone call is simply to get them to come to class, then you're selling a class. This can be a problem with automation and auto booking a trial. The connection needs to be made on the phone why they want to do martial arts and so on. So that's true. Like, you got to reestablish the desire to be in and come into the school.
I was doing calls yesterday, for that second location, and I had just left a message and hung up, and then the phone rang. I actually thought it was one of the persons calling me back.
Right.
So I answered the phone. It's a great day at TriStar. I can help you. And she said, yeah, I was just calling because, I wanted my two kids to, try out karate.
Yeah.
And I thought it was somebody else that I'd already called. Right. And I said, yeah, great. Let me look up your information. And she didn't even say you shouldn't have my information. I put in the telephone number, and I'm like, I don't have this number.
Right.
I don't have the number. So it was funny, because then I had to, in my head, I'm like, what the heck? Oh yeah, this is an info call. Like, right. How often do we get those anymore? Right.
Yeah, true. Very true. Everything is automated. And by the way, we book classes on a day-to-day basis. I might have 30 or 40 appointments scheduled on our calendar automatically on their own, and maybe half of them will show. The rest of them now, those, let's say 20 out of 40, you have to nurture them back through the door.
Yeah. And, look, let's close out with this really quick. I think you and I both are in agreement that we should automate as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
But in those automations, there should be human connections
and interaction. Yeah.
That are happening. They're interceding with those. So from the first interaction, meaning, they opted in. If they don't go to the next step, you should be on that phone as quickly as possible. Yeah. If they go to the next step, but not the next one, then you should be on that phone. If they don't show up, you should be on that phone. If they, aren't showing up for classes, do we have automations that text message them? Yeah. But after a certain time, you should be on that phone calling them all the way through. So I think automations are great, but please, please, please do not lose the human interaction, that connection, because that's really why those students come to your school, is because they want a connection with you.
Right. That's why I have a virtual assistant, for that exact reason, to make sure it's that personal interaction going on. So, by the way, we had someone on Facebook, and they said, does anyone recommend any podcasts for martial arts school owners? And Ron Sell said, do listen to Ali and Dwayne's podcast. It's great. So he, owner of Spark, recommended our podcast. But I just want to thank everybody for listening. And we have a whole library, vast library of material. You could go to schoolownertalk.com and get that information. It's all waiting there for you. In fact, I think you could type in a subject, and if the subject is clear and we tagged it that way, they can actually see everything we spoke about that's on summer camp or, retention or whatever. So it's a really great library of information. And please, if you like our podcast, because it was funny, a lot of other people posted other podcasts other than Ron Sell. They posted, this podcast or that podcast, and we didn't come up as much. So please share with people our podcast, let the school owners that know about what we do, and, help them get some of this knowledge that we try to share with these amazing guests.
All right, sir. Have a great one. Thanks.
Yeah, you too. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out Elite Insights for all your website needs. They can be reached at eliteinsights.com. Add Health Coaching, helping school owners create a new and easy to implement revenue stream for your school. Visit addhealthcoaching.com. Lead Hunter Media, your online digital marketer and content provider. Visit leadhuntermedia.com. Academy Kings Growth Consulting and Management Group. They can be reached at academykings.com. And Spark Membership, hands down the best martial arts software for school owner management on the planet. They can be reached at sparkmembership.com. We will see you next time.